Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
I've been going out with a girl, her name is Julie, but last night she said to me when we were watching telly.
So there you go, early 70s in Wolverhampton, they had trousers as the uniform, no skirts. I'll do that headline again for you. Daily Mail. Dozens of schools have banned skirts in favour of a gender-neutral uniform. Normal people, dozens of schools have banned skirts in favour of trousers. 0345 606 0973 is the number to call if I'm missing something, or if you can help me get angrier about this story. Russell is in Catford. Russell, what would you like to say?
Yes, hi James. A couple of things. One would be, my point of view is, it's the girls that are having to change, isn't it? You know, why don't we make everyone wear skirts? That just wouldn't happen because the boys would be...
But girls already wear trousers.
They do already wear trousers.
And boys generally don't wear skirts.
But there are boys that wear skirts.
But it's a false... You see that it's a silly comparison.
Well, yes, but as I said...
So let's move on to the ones that aren't silly.
It's the girls that are having to change, and that would be the normal way. You know, it's a male-run country, it's a male-run world.
No, mate, it's trousers are unisex and skirts generally are not. So you go for the unisex option instead of the option that is generally confined to one side. So if you want to make a uniform...
You take the option away from the girls.
You take the option away from the girls in the same way that they're not allowed to have a piercing, they're not allowed to roll their skirt up halfway up their thighs, they're not allowed to wear bright pink tights. It's called a uniform. All uniforms take options away. It's actually, Russell, forgive me, mate, it's the actual definition of the word uniform is the removal of choice.
So the word uniform has been used wrongly for years and years and years, because for years and years and years...
Yes.
Okay. Right. Again, it's the girls...
Well, no, don't say again, please, because that's all died and withered. Let's try something new now.
All right, I'll have another go, James.
It's not compulsory. You can just say, I've got no idea why I'm cross about this, James. Thank you for leading me to a land of peace and harmony.
Because I actually think it's unfair. It is the girls that are changing.
Yeah.
But probably the more important point... my daughter brought it up when I made a comment about, be careful Dave's going out in that, always upskirting and that. And she had a right go at me. And she said, do not ask me to change what I'm wearing because of the misogynists, perverted men in this world.
Was she wearing a uniform?
She was wearing, it was a going out uniform, I guess.
Was she wearing was she dressed identically to all the other women she was with?
Well,
it's not a trick question, mate. Come on. Was she wearing a uniform?
Don't pick up on a small point. Let me...
Don't pick up... We're having a conversation about uniforms, and you think that picking up on the word uniform is a small point.
James, just
Russell,
bear with me.
I am, mate. I'm bearing with you.
So if there is any reason for them not to be wearing dresses because of the sexual nature that your first call was talking about...
No one's mentioned upskirting except you.
Surely, well, the first girl was, the first lady that called in, she was saying about how...
Well, she didn't mention upskirting.
She was looking up skirts.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything about looking up skirts.
No, you said upskirt. You told your daughter to be careful when she was going out because of upskirting.
Because of upskirting, that's right.
Yeah.
Is that not a thing that happens?
Well, yes, but I'm just saying no one mentioned it until you.
Well, it's the same thing, isn't it? Objectifying women.
Upskirting is not objectifying women, mate. Upskirting is a crime. Objectifying women is a lazy prejudice.
So looking up a girl's skirt,
Russell, mate, what are you doing, Russell? Listen to yourself. You phoned in. You thought I'll just make a point. It'll be fine. It's fallen apart like a cheap suit, and now you're talking about your own daughter being upskirted. What's happened to you, Russell?
No, I was warning my daughter about being
and she told you to keep your beak out, didn't she?
No, she didn't tell me that. What she said...
She did, mate. You just told us.
Upskirting isn't her fault.
Yeah, but she got cross with you. You just said that she got cross with you.
Yes, because...
So she told you to keep your beak out.
Because...
And now you're talking about it on national radio.
James, please don't do this, mate.
Oh, Russell, don't you do it, mate.
So, you wouldn't warn your daughters about upskirting or talk to your daughters about upskirting or...
No.
Pardon?
No, of course I wouldn't.
You wouldn't. You,
No,
so you
they're aware of it themselves, Russell, just like your daughter was. It's not a man's job to police the sexual choices or the sartorial choices of a woman, which is made much easier when there is a uniform.
Maybe it's a man's job, James,
Russell, mate.
to teach young men
Yes.
and older men
Yes.
that the way you treat women isn't how women are being treated in today's society.
And how does that work as an either-or, Russell? So,
What do you mean, either or?
well, how is that an alternative to what we're talking about? How is it relevant to what? Because you can teach men not to be goatish while simultaneously endorsing the notion of a school uniform. Why have you tried to present it as a choice between the two?
I don't think I understand what you're saying.
I think we can at least part as friends, Russell.
James,
No?
I'll always listen to you, mate, and I feel I've been I've been put through the ringer this morning.
Well, don't ring in without thinking first.
Well, I thought I had thought, and
Really?
when my daughter put the argument to me.
Right, let me do it again for you.
So-
Dozens of schools have banned skirts in favour of trousers. How cross are you going to get on a scale of 1 to 10, Russ?
Well, I feel quite angry actually because
you
I'm
still?
listening to a story regarding the Daily Mail, which really annoys me.
No, hang on.
But the
There's
actual
dozens of
story-
schools have banned skirts in favour of trousers. Scale of 1 to 10, how angry? Seriously?
I'm about 3, maybe.
Seriously, that much?
Well, you've got to give me a little bit.
I will. I'll give you one.
phoned up.
1 and a bit.
Okay.
All right. That's how it works. Amanda is in Oxford. Amanda, what would you like to say?
Hello there. Hi. Yeah, I'm actually quite angry. I'll be honest.
Scale
I think
out of 10?
10.
10 out of 10 on this.
A
Crikey.
10. I have a 6-year-old daughter. Obviously, she's very happy to be a pretty girl and then wear her trousers when she also wants to wear trousers. So
Yes.
they have a beautiful summer dress in the summer and it looks amazing on them. And the boys are in their 3/4 length shorts, which they look really smart. And I don't know. I think it's again taking the choice.
You're
out
not really a 10.
I am.
No, you can't be a 10. What about...
I think it's the choice again.
Right.
It angers me to take away choice, whether you're 6 years old or whether you're 16 years old.
So should she be able to go to school with green hair?
No, I think...
Well,
I'll
hang
take
on,
it
what about her
away.
choice?
You are, because that is not a compulsory uniform.
Well, no,
That is
but the
school's
trousers are
choice.
compulsory uniform. They're taking away choice. So why don't you want her to go to school
They're
with...
taking away that choice.
Yes, but they took away the choice of green hair.
I think to put something in your hair that
Should she
will
be
last
allowed to
a
go to
month-
school in different clothes from everybody else? Should she be able to go to school in a Chelsea strip?
There is a uniform, and girls can wear. I mean, when I went to school,
So can she go to school in a Chelsea strip? Does she have that
and
choice?
I could wear trousers if I wanted to, but our choice was to wear skirts.
But what
because
about the
we
choice
like
of wearing a
being
Chelsea strip?
feminine.
Could she go to school in her...
I wouldn't like to have gone to school, worn trousers every day, and think, right, I can
Pretending
wear
you
my
can't hear
skirt
me,
for the
but everybody
weekend
knows you
now.
can.
Because I'm quite angry to take that choice away.
Yes. So does she have the choice to go to school in a football kit?
No, because
Does she have the choice to go to school when she's a bit older? Can she go in high heels?
It's not normal regulation school uniform.
but the
We're not
normal
arguing about
regulation
school
is now
uniform.
trousers.
We're not arguing about
Amanda.
coloured hair.
Amanda.
Because coloured hair lasts 2 months.
Amanda, the normal regulation is now trousers only. So you're in favour of it?
It shouldn't be. No, I'm not.
Well,
And that
why
is
can't they
not-
go in the football kit
that's
then? Are
not
they
been
green hair and their stiletto
generation.
heels?
That is not like you said, we can go backwards, and we're going backwards.
We're not going backwards.
We are going backwards.
We're not going
You just
backwards.
said in generations, we're now going backwards.
No, going backwards would be putting them in petticoats and corsets and whalebone hoops. Going forwards is
No,
sexual
they were in
equality,
skirts.
uniform equality. So anyway, we'll
Uniform
run
equality,
through all
so-
the other choices that she has. So she can't do what she wants with her hair. She can't wear what she wants. She doesn't have the choice to wear anything except the school uniform approved things. But you are now disapproving of school uniform approved policies.
If she wanted pink hair, my daughter's had pink hair to a Halloween party, and it didn't come out.
But we're
the
talking
next
about
week,
school. School uniform.
and that
Can
was
she have
at school.
braids? Can she have those braids that you get on the beach where you have the multicoloured little strands coming down from them? Can she shave her head? Can she wear a Newcastle United outfit? Can she go to school in a uniform from a different school from the one that she goes to? Does she have that choice? Can she wear your clothes to school? Can she wear her dad's clothes to school? Can she wear the latest top 10 items from Primark to school? No, she can't, because it's a school uniform, and you like school uniforms. So here's a new school uniform. Why don't you like this one? Because it has taken away choice. But we've just established that uniform is the opposite of choice.
No, the choice, if you're a female, is to wear a skirt or trousers.
Uniform is the opposite of choice.
In transsexual children can wear skirts if they want to.
Uniform is the opposite of choice. And in this school, everyone has to wear trousers. No one can wear skirts.
I wouldn't take her to that school. It's taken away choice, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, I'm going to do this once more. Amanda, can you give me a definition of the word uniform that doesn't mean taking away choice?
So you wear a uniform to work, do you? You wear your...
Pardon?
You don't turn up in...
No, I've got choice about what I wear to work, because there is no uniform. So what you need to give me, to make some sense, is a definition of the word uniform that doesn't mean taking away choice.
I think uniform is a generalisation.
No, well, OK, I'll make it easier for you. School uniform. Give me a definition of it that doesn't involve... Yeah, OK, you can call it a generalisation, but that's not a definition that removes the concept of choice. For me, uniform means all the same. So it literally means taking away choice. Give me a definition of it that doesn't mean that, and then I can possibly...
But you're making them all look like boys.
No, you're making them all wear trousers. You've said yourself she wears trousers. So she looks like a boy when she wears the trousers you described when you first rang in.
Of 3/4 length shorts, I would say,
you said sometimes she wears trousers. Does she look like a boy when she wears trousers?
No, she wears leggings. She doesn't really wear trousers.
Well, you did say trousers. You did say trousers. So anyway, back to the word uniform. Give me a definition of it that doesn't mean removal of choice.
I do not... It's the choice of, if the girls want to wear a skirt, to be girls.
Yes, a definition of uniform that doesn't mean removal of choice. That's what we need.
Taking their choice away from them.
Yes, so uniform means... Yes, uniform means removal of choice. So give me a definition of uniform that doesn't involve removal of choice.
You could... That school could create a completely different uniform and say that all the boys have to wear long skirts as well.
Yeah.
You're taking away the boys' choice.
But they haven't. And I'm asking you for very simple. The word is uniform. Amanda, the word is uniform. It means all the same. That is the absence of free choice. Give me a definition. Give me a... No? OK, I think we both know that this has gone as far as it's going to go, isn't it?
Absolutely. Well, I'm just angry to take the choice away.
One more go at uniform. Uniform means taking choice away.
No, it doesn't.
What does it mean then?
Why would it? Why would it? Why should it? Why should that choice be taken away just because we class it as uniform, quote unquote? OK. I'm sure it's my fault, but you've lost me now. What do you think uniform means? I'm sure you're more intelligent than that. What do you think uniform means? You wear a uniform to an office.
No. What does uniform... What does the word mean?
That's their uniform. They can change it about a bit. A girl will wear...
What does the word mean?
It would be like going into the army. That's when girls start wearing the trousers if they join the army.
Yes, so when they wear what? When they wear what in the army?
They're at school.
No, but what are they wearing in the army?
What was the argument to take
I can't do this anymore. If there's anybody listening that feels there's anywhere else to go with this, you literally go into the army and you wear the uniform, and that's trousers. You have completely... you've argued with yourself at a level that I am awed by. I've never encountered anybody to argue so brilliantly with themselves. Oh, they're taking away choice. That's what a uniform is. Do you like uniforms? Yes, I do like uniforms, but they're taking away choice, and then they'd have to go into the army and, wear trousers. Oh... Well, there you go.
Elizabeth is in Clacton-on-Sea on this. Hi, Elizabeth.
Oh, good afternoon, Tom. I believe that, of course, we should keep targets. This keeps the government on their toes because the infrastructures we have at the moment are just creaking at the seams. We can't cope as it is.
When you say that we need these targets to keep the governments on their toes, what is it about the targets currently in place that you think the government are on their toes about, given they've missed them?
We can find out exactly how many people have come here, and as you say, it's in the 200,000-300,000, which is ridiculous. So if that is the case in the future, we see that 300,000 immigrants...
But if the government keep missing the targets that they themselves have set, then what happens?
then we can kick them out and hold them to account and let them explain why they've allowed this to happen. As I say, Tom, we have no housing. Our doctor surgeries are full, hospitals are full, schools are full. Of course,
but it's not all down to immigration.
Well, I
Elizabeth,
think
is it?
a majority is.
Well, I don't know. Have we got anything to prove that?
Of course, if my husband and his friend went to hospital the other day. I'm not being racist, but there were only 2 British people in the waiting room. I'm sorry. I just think it's ridiculous that we don't have targets. Of course, let immigration come.
So,
and
Elizabeth,
like the gentleman said before, if we need 5,000 brain surgeons, that would be great.
So what is the basis, do you think, for the 100,000 number? Why that number?
Well, I don't know. Some clever clogs in the civil service must have picked that number out.
Well, I don't know that they have, you know. The only thing I've read about this number was that it was accidentally spouted out on a TV programme and they decided to stick with it.
Well, who spouted it out?
I don't know, somebody.
Probably David Cameron. When he's, like you say, he's disappeared. But honestly, Tom, let's deal with what we've got at the moment and let immigrants come by all means, but the immigration that we need. And because these poor people arriving in England or the UK without jobs, without housing, this causes the unrest.
There is certainly... It is certainly very difficult to see how, once we leave the European Union, we'll be able to have immigration coming into this country where people don't have work to go to, that they just come in hoping to get work.
Well, no, this is what's got to be stopped. I mean, you can't go to Australia and just arrive there without having enough money to keep yourself going or having a job to go to, which to me sounds very sensible, because otherwise, as you find, there's so many people on the streets homeless.
What is it about, Elizabeth, finally, that when you say that your husband went to the hospital the other day and he was the only British person there, what is it about that makes you feel uncomfortable?
Well, what makes me and a lot of British people uncomfortable is to think, well, why has this happened? Why have we no housing? Why are our surgeries overbooked?
But that's a separate. It could be about building more surgeries or getting more doctors or building more houses. But why is it the thing about where they were born that makes you feel uncomfortable?
It's not being uncomfortable, Tom. It's just feeling, as you'll ask most people. You've lived in this country all our lives, paid all our dues, taxes, and God knows what else, and yet people seem to arrive and are given everything without even living here, say, for 4 or 5 years. I'm not against immigration at all, but we have to control it. And let's face it, all governments, Conservative and Labour, have let us all down over immigration, and they're frightened to say it because we were all called racist.
Peter's in Bournemouth. Hi, Peter.
Yeah, hi. The point I would like to make is I feel that we've now reached saturation point now with the immigration in this country, and I think it's time to actually stop immigration.
Totally.
And concentrate on the people that we have here now.
You want to stop immigration totally?
Yes, because the reason I say this is if you haven't got so many people standing at the bus stop, you don't need so many buses. So when they say, oh, we need X amount of doctors, we need X amount of nurses, when does that end? Does it end when the country goes bang, or what? When does it actually stop?
What, that we stop needing more doctors and nurses?
Well, we don't. No. The point I'm trying to put over
is that it will continue to grow exponentially. That there is basically you're saying that there is a limit somewhere. There is a limit somewhere of how many people this country can have.
Because this is not being racist. This is being realist. Don't mix the two. Realism is completely different to racism. People now are realising there is no homes for their children. There is no...
But isn't that a fault of not building enough homes?
No. There's nothing to do... You cannot build enough homes.
You can.
You can't.
They're saying that they're going to build 300,000 homes a year.
Yeah, that's nothing.
Well, that's more homes that would have been... hang on, Peter. That will be more homes in a year being built in this country than there has for the last 30 plus.
Yeah, what, 300,000 four-bedroom detached homes, or 300,000 homes for the common person, for want of another word?
Well, affordable would be ideal.
No, then what they do is, property developers sell their homes now at £400 a square metre. They put a 5-bedroom house on the same size plot for maximum return. They're all doing it. Everyone's doing it. But what about the young starter? Where do they start?
Well, I think I agree with you that there is a problem in getting young people onto the housing market, but I don't think it's got as much to do with immigration as I think you think it has. To the point where I'm not going to agree with you that we need to stop immigration totally. I think that would be a disaster.
So where do we just continue with allowing people from Eastern Europe or Europeans just to carry on walking in?
But we don't.
Getting the same benefits and et cetera, as someone that's worked here all their life.
But I don't think we.
How does that stack up?
I'm not sure that we. As you heard earlier, we have.
This is why the NAS is in a terrible, terrible mess.
Well, part of the reason, arguably, why the NHS is in a mess is because not enough doctors and nurses are going into the NHS to provide the care that we need.
No, that's nonsense.
Well, it's not. It's not nonsense, is it? We know that because the cap on the numbers.
We train a doctor here. How much does it cost to train a doctor? I don't know.
Well, it costs quite a lot. It takes a long time. Yeah. It takes 7 years.
What do they do then? They go move to Australia because they get a better life. Do they pay that back?
So no. Peter. Two things. One, it is absolutely true that we need more doctors and nurses working in the NHS. We don't have enough coming through our own systems here right now, so we've lifted the cap on the number of doctors and nurses who can come in from outside the EU to fill those gaps. Point one. Point two...
Why don't we have enough?
Well, because they're not being trained fast enough.
No. There's a reason for everything, and that's not the reason.
Why? Well, how do you know?
That's not the reason.
How do you know?
Well, because it's factual, isn't it? The way that doctors and nurses get treated in this country is abysmal. Nurses don't want to train to be a nurse anymore. And if they do, they qualify and they leave for better conditions.
Well, then, hang on a sec. Well, unless you're saying is we get nursing to a point where people want to go into nursing, you're undermining your own point about cutting off immigration, because we are going to need nurses from somewhere, and if it's not from this country, it's going to have to be from outside.
No. What I'm trying to explain, we're getting back to my point. My point is, where does that stop? So do you have it's the same scenario. Is how many buses do you need for how many people? The mass is not being done. All we're doing is accepting people into the country, and this is not being racist, it's being realist. We're accepting people from all walks of life, so just the labourer or whatever. The figures are not being looked at. No one's actually saying, hold on a minute, we're bursting here at the seams.
Well, the figures that we know about net migration, people coming out and people going in, and we can argue about the accuracy of those. What we don't know is how many people are here illegally. That is true, Peter. We don't know how many people are here illegally, and arguably it would be more helpful to the argument that I'm trying to put forward to refute your argument if we did know those numbers. Peter, thank you. John's in Dartford. Hi, John.
Hello.
John, you're on the radio.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you ready?
It's about the immigration.
Right.
Yeah, can you hear me okay? You can't keep bringing people into the country when the country isn't big enough anyway. It's like a water butt, isn't it? You've got 2 inches of water coming in, 4 inches are going out.
So how many...
You're never going to sustain the volume of water, and i.e., eventually, the water butt will overflow. So where does it go?
Gary, thank you. David's in Bromley. Hi, David.
Yeah, good afternoon to you.
Afternoon. What's the solution?
Right, the solution. Let's put down the grass tax. If I said to you, the government's going to create a lottery for the NHS, the money will go 100% to the NHS. You could go there and you could put 2p or 20p into that lottery fund. You didn't win anything. It just went to the NHS. That would not hit any motorists, wouldn't hit beer drinkers. It would hit everybody, whether they're out of work or earning £100.
So a voluntary contribution to the NHS?
Only to the NHS.
Okay.
Only.
Okay, David.
So it's ring fence.
Yep.
Doesn't go anywhere else. There's no admin fee. It goes directly to the NHS.
That's great. David?
Yeah.
I'm going to volunteer to pay nothing, mate.
Fine.
Well, hang on. Doesn't that mean more people...
That's your choice.
Doesn't that mean more people have to pay more?
you could be out of work for 20 odd years, not pay anything, but still gain from visiting the NHS.
But that means that more people have to give more money to this voluntary ring-fence fund because the NHS has to work on money.
No. You could go there and give a penny, get your receipt, and that money goes to the NHS. You could go there and put £20.
But, David, if you don't want to volunteer to give that money, where does the NHS get its money from?
Because people will do it if it's only going to the NHS. They won't go anywhere else because all the road taxes go on other things because the government steals it. But if it only went to the NHS,
there's no way. There is no way that you are going to ask people voluntarily to give money to the NHS to the point where everyone's giving enough for it to be financially sustainable.
So what do you think? If you put £5 on a pint of beer for all people who go and drink, you raise 100 million. But how much of that goes to the NHS?
Well, people have talked, David, about a hypothecated tax. Wow, we're getting into tax. I love making tax sexy. A hypothecated tax for the NHS. But the argument against that is, and I don't pretend to be an expert on this, but the argument against a hypothecated tax is that because the tax base is eroding, if the amount of money that you would raise from a tax that just comes off and goes straight to the NHS would fall as the tax base changes and falls and erodes, so you'll never actually have enough money for it. I'm happy to be told that is complete nonsense, by the way, from someone who understands tax rather more than I do.
I do know that people won't care. Here is the Electoral Commission, the independent regulator, has found that one side, in the biggest vote the country's ever undertaken, cheated. But Gary doesn't care. Why don't you care, Gary?
Because I made up my mind long before the referendum took place. As you know, there was many incidents leading up to this moment about the amount of money that we pay in Europe, our ability to govern ourselves, and many other issues as well. So I made up my mind, and the people and friends.
But the money is spent, and the two things that you've suggested are certainly at the very least open to question. The money is spent, of course, on getting out the messages that you've just described. So anybody who received those messages more loudly than they should have done under the context of the electoral law has been defrauded. So why don't you care?
Well, first of all, prove that it did have the kind of effect. The only way you can do that is asking the people themselves.
No. Of course it isn't. Of course it isn't, because no one's going to know why they voted the way that they voted. They're not going to be aware of all of the influences that they were subjected to and not subjected to. And a lot of people are still labouring under epic delusions and falsehoods about almost every level of the referendum. They spend the money to get the messages out. The reason why there are limits on how much money they can spend is to ensure a level playing field. This report will conclude that the playing field was not level, but you're comfortable with playing on a cheat's charter, and I just want, in your own words, to understand why.
Well, this question about how much you spend on marketing your
No. The rules are clear and they've been broken, and I want to know why you're comfortable living in a legal and electoral environment where rules are patently broken. What's the point? I know. Let me phrase the question differently. What's the point of rules, Gary?
There are rules for a certain, I suppose, aspect in governing whatever you want to do in life, I guess. And
that doesn't mean anything. What is the point? What is the point of rules in the context of elections?
Well, I think in this particular, let's look at this particular matter. Are we clutching straws after 2 years coming out with this?
We're looking at 4 charges of breaking electoral law being upheld. So I'll ask you again, what is the point of rules in elections?
Well, I guess I'm satisfied because the outcome was what I wanted, so I'm not particularly bothered.
What is the point? What is the point of rules in elections?
Well, I think we all break rules, but as long as it doesn't hurt anybody.
What is the point of rules? What are they there for?
To adhere to them, I guess.
And why is it important that they're adhered to?
Well, I guess to have some kind of common ground of belief.
No. Why is it important that rules are adhered to?
Well, I'm not eloquent enough to explain that. I know in my mind why they should be, but
because you rang in to tell me that they're not important and they shouldn't be adhered to, and you didn't care if they were broken.
I rang in to say it doesn't bother me because it didn't influence me.
Because
me in particular.
They cheated.
I don't think cheat comes.
And we know why. Well, what word would you use for breaking the law?
But I don't think that the kind of same kind of crime, if you want to speak that way, as rigging votes or other things that are far more serious than that.
Okay, well, that's what the Electoral Commission are there for, to impose the rules. But you've phoned in to tell me that you don't care about the Electoral Commission's role in imposing rules. So let's go back to that. Let's just go back briefly to the question of why the rules that you rang in to tell me you didn't care about are actually important, because I'm glad we've made that journey together. Because you know the answer. You don't have to be eloquent to say, because if the rules are broken, the result is invalid, Gary.
Well, I'm just curious at how all this come up after 2 years.
It's taken 2 years to investigate it because...
Well, are there games played on both sides which led...
Well, that can be investigated as well. You're suggesting that the Electoral Commission isn't independent now, are you?
Well, it seems everyone's have a point of view in whichever...
No. Independent is the opposite of having a point of view. So are you suggesting the Electoral Commission isn't independent? The only independent regulator governing electoral law isn't independent because they found the side you like broke the rules? That's what you've rung in to tell me.
Who actually instigated this? And is it been? If it comes to the court of law and he's actually...
I'm not Google, Gary. We both know. No, it's not a question of where I'm coming from. It's a very simple question of you not caring about rules being broken because you liked the result that was delivered in circumstances that can now be fairly described as invalid. And that is kind of how terrible things happen throughout history under the guise of democracy. It's how Vladimir Putin gets a 97% result in an election, because the rules by which everybody has to abide don't exist. They still exist here, but as you beautifully and brilliantly have highlighted, people are so entrenched now in their own delusion and denial that they're going to try to convince themselves that they don't care about the only protection our democracy has from electoral fraud, from misspending, misallocation of funds. I don't care. Why not? Oh, well, I got the result that I wanted. Why did you want that result? Well, fish, James, and passports.
Let's turn to Robert Olds, director of the Bruges Group. The Bruges Group are a pro-Brexit association. Afternoon to you, Robert.
Good afternoon.
What do you make, first of all, of this comparison that Obama has made between Trump and Boris Johnson? Do you think it was just the hair?
Well, I think there's a opportunity there to criticise people who have been successful in elections recently. President Trump and Boris Johnson, who backed Leave, eventually came out to Leave during the referendum now 2 years ago. And it seems like this is all part of a whinge, really, and just trying to criticise those who have been successful, whereas the Obama legacy has been rubbished. And actually, Obama is actually one of the people that made Leave happen. He came, interfered in British politics, gave a speech at the behest of former British Prime Minister, now David Cameron, saying we'd be at the back of the queue in a trade deal.
Robert, it wasn't quite at the behest. It was the President's view that we would go to the back of the queue, and that we learned this week that Cameron asked him to say it.
Yeah, exactly. Cameron asked him to say it. It was clearly at his behest. Foreign interference has been proven in the referendum, and it was on the side of Remain. But it seems they still haven't got over it. They're still upset, still whinging, and not actually moving forward and looking to the future where Obama's legacy is now in the past. Obama, he had policies in place that did absolutely nothing for America. And under President Trump, black unemployment now in America is at its lowest ever level. He's done something. I'm not sure we can say, Robert, that the total sum of Barack Obama's achievements as president has amounted to absolutely nothing for the American people. But to put that, not if you're a black man in America, sure, but stuck in the projects without a job, then what was his legacy? What did he give to you? He gave you more and more unemployment. I do think, Robert, Robert, hang on a sec. I do think one of the most powerful messages that Trump delivered during the campaign, the election campaign, was to go to, I think he was in Chicago, which has obviously a very high black American population, very poor levels of employment. And he said to them, what have you got to lose? And that was an incredibly powerful message for them because, of course, as you say, their unemployment rates are pretty high in that part of the world. To bring it back to this idea that the Brexit vote was the politics of a nostalgic, nationalistic view of the world, rejection of globalisation. There are people who voted for Brexit for those reasons, aren't there? Well, no, this is actually, if you looked at the campaign, read the campaign literature, talk to people, they are open. The British people have always been open to international trade and look beyond the European Union. They want to see trade deals with China, with other countries around the world. British people are far more open than what these virtue signalling globalists, people who are, I think, largely beholden to international corporations, actually have credit for. They know that Britain's position in the world is actually a free trading nation with links around the world, not just with Europe. They look beyond Europe. We look beyond Europe in terms of who we would take into the country, who can deliver. We would be looking for people from other nations to contribute to our economy, not just taking in labour from Eastern Europe.
And how is that view then, Robert?
This is just...
How is that view of what you want from Brexit going to show itself in the kind of Brexit we get?
Well, if we were to have a full Brexit, which is certainly not on the cards, we would have a policy where we'd have our own trade policy. We could forge links with growing countries around the world, China and India, 2 countries the European Union doesn't have free trade agreements with. We would have an immigration policy which would partly be built on actually training up and developing the skills of British people rather than stealing already qualified nurses and doctors from Eastern European
Robert, it's not stealing, is it?
It is. If you understood what was happening in Eastern Europe, where their countries are devoid of educated young people because they've come to this country to work in low productivity sectors.
But that's because we're not putting them onto a plane and flying them over. They're coming of their own free will.
And in these countries, they don't want to lose them. In Lithuania, they've elected an anti-immigration party to power because they are fed up of losing these young people. There is a brain drain in Eastern Europe. We're sucking them out. It's harming Eastern Europe. It's harming their country's future. It's lowering wages here. What we should be doing is training up British people. And, of course, if there's someone from the Commonwealth countries we traditionally had excellent links with, we should take them who are the very best. Say, for instance, the Indian engineer, for instance, or Indian doctor.
There is an argument to be made, certainly, about, and people do, about the moral argument for taking nurses in such great numbers from the Philippines and having nurses from the Philippines come into this country, given that the Philippines has such poor healthcare and those people might be needed in that country rather more than they're needed here. I understand that point, but it goes back to what view of Brexit you had in the first place and whether you're going to be able to see that vision that you had that wasn't a vision of nationalism, nostalgic, 2 fingers up to Brussels, turn back the clock, pull up the drawbridge, that wasn't that view. Whether you are going to see your view of where you want the country to go actually outturred in the kind of Brexit we're going to get. Robert, thank you. Robert Olds, director of the Bruges Group. The Bruges Group, as you may have gathered, are a pro-Brexit association. Michael's in Taunton. Hi, Michael.
Hi, Tom. Thank you for having me on.
Welcome.
First of all, I think it's very disrespectful of this guy and Mr. Obama with their comments that they voiced. Of course, they have a right to do that. But as a previous speaker said, I think he shot himself in the foot as well as putting one in Mr. Cameron's foot with his words, and that got some of our backs up in this nation, just the same as I think if one of our big leaders went to the States and started speaking out in such a way on their behalf.
Well, if it's his view, as you said, he's entitled to his view. I think there's a question of whether he was right to deliver his view in that particular way. That put people's backs up. I appreciate that. So, his comments then that Boris Johnson and potentially others tapped into this feeling, this desire, nostalgic nationalist view of the world that was motivated the Brexit vote. Do you think that's true?
No, I mean, I'm 54 now, born in 64. I had no nostalgia of empire or colonialism. I'm an ex-soldier as well and a patriot, not a nationalist. So, no, that thought never came into my head. And I think, as you said, I think for most of us that never came in. For myself, primarily, it was sovereignty. It was sovereignty to have that back properly.
When you say that back properly, what do you mean?
I'm not a federalist, which is one of the roots of the agenda of Europe. I don't agree with other nations setting such important laws and separate sovereign countries at all.
So things like the European Union saying how to a country that you will have to take a certain quota of people coming into Europe is you would say unfair, unnecessary, and something that you would vote against.
Absolutely, they don't have a right to tell us that. We say who we can and can't. How dare a group of other nations tell us such things. But, you know, that's just one thing. But also, I would also say, why aren't you talking more about Tommy Robinson and his imprisonment?
Well, Michael, the reason why we're not talking about that is because the guy pleaded guilty, and that's the end of the story. There is no more to say on it than that. A lot of it is, of course, down to sub judice because there are ongoing court cases, but if the guy pleads guilty, he's clearly done it. Thank you for your call.
I know people in Downing Street listen to this programme, so we'll keep score of your calls so far. It's 2-0 for Theresa May going to Russia so far. Sandra's in Bedford. Sandra, are you going to make it 2-1?
Oh, hi, Ian. I wouldn't... If I was Vladimir Putin, I wouldn't let her in, or Boris Johnson.
Why? Well, he's invited her.
Sorry?
He's invited her.
Has he?
Yes.
Has he?
Yes.
I wouldn't have. He's a good man then, because I wouldn't let her set foot in my country. I think she's the only person I'm not even sure about Jeremy Corbyn, but I would let George Galloway in because he's always been very decent about Russia. But I think she's just virtual signalling. She won't be able to go because she wouldn't have the front to go. I don't think at all. I just think she's horrible about it. They're awful about Russia.
Do you not think that Vladimir Putin is a bit awful about people as well?
Tell me why. It'd be interesting to hear why you're saying he's awful about people.
Well, you look at the various cases of opposition leaders who've been mysteriously murdered over the years. You look at critics of him in the media, in the Russian media, that have either disappeared or been murdered. Now, there are all sorts of other things in the international world. There are lots of things that he's done, which I'm surprised that you seem to think that he's this virtuous person and that it's Theresa May that's the evil one.
Oh, really? Well, I used to feel like that about him because of what I read in the media until about 3 years ago, maybe more, and I thought, hang on a minute, this doesn't seem to be adding up. And I just think we're so, we're so against Russia all the time. And Russia wanted to join NATO. No, wouldn't have it. They've lost thousands upon thousands in the Second World War. They
lost millions, 20 million.
Yeah, yes. And we've got so much in common with Russia. And there's something in the way. There's a third party that really doesn't want us to be friends with Russia.
Who's that then?
I don't know. It's just my gut feeling.
Well, when you said 3 years ago you changed your mind on Russia, what changed your mind?
Well, I remember seeing so much about this man who was awful and horrible, and then I started to see other things in the media I'm not just picking on particularly George Galloway, but people like that, and then Alexander Yakovenko, and it came up. I just thought...
He's a Russian ambassador to the UK.
Yeah, well, look how we are in Russia, whoever we are, the UK ambassador in Russia, or whatever, the other way round. I'm sorry if I'm not getting my terminologies right, but we just seem to be negative about them all the time, and I just feel that when they're here, I just think they want to be friends. And every time we put up a barrier, we sanction them. They've got another 6 months of sanctions from the EU. It's just, I don't know, we just really don't want Russia to do well.
They just want to be friends. Sandra, do read up a little bit more, because there's certainly a lot more to it than that. Thank you very much for your call.
Today we open up a helpline for people who are frightened of balloons. If you're upset about the prospect of Donald Trump being mocked by a giant orange depiction of him wearing a nappy, give me a call and we'll work out whether I should be getting angrier or whether you should be winding your neck in. It's got to be one or the other. Jazz is in Crawley. Jazz, why are you frightened of a balloon?
I ain't frightened of no balloon. I just think it's absolutely pathetic, and cowards like you aren't even going to turn up to this Donald Trump rally or anything. You're just going to be sat there having a go at the radio and...
having a go at the radio? I'm on the radio.
Well, you're shouting at the mic and, it's coming out through my speaker. I can't see you,
That is how it works.
I'm not really interested about your balloon. I'm going to get my drone out and fly it right into it.
What day?
Because I think it's a bit disgusting.
What day, Jazz?
Go. Sorry?
What day are you going to do it?
I don't know, whenever the balloon goes up.
Well, you don't know when it is?
No, I've got no idea,
So
mate.
you're cross about a balloon going up on a day you don't know?
I'm not cross about...
You sound quite cross, Jazz.
I just think it's really pathetic.
Why? Because it's good to mock politicians, isn't it?
No.
No?
Really.
You don't think any politician should be mocked?
Well, let's just...
What about mocking disabled journalists? Where do you stand on that?
Where do you stand on fake news, James?
Well, I'm passionately opposed to it, Jack, but you can't answer a question with a question. I'm amused that...
I can't do it. I can't answer fake questions with fake answers. Sorry, mate.
Well, it's not a fake question. How do you feel about mocking disabled journalists?
Donald Trump facing new criticism for something he did on the campaign trail last night in South Carolina while defending his debunked claim that he saw thousands of Muslims celebrate the collapse of the Twin Towers here in New York. He appeared to mock a reporter with a disability. Take a look.
Written by a nice reporter. Now the poor guy, you got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember. He's going like, I don't remember. Oh, maybe that's what I said. This is 14 years ago. They didn't do a retraction.
That reporter he is talking about is Serge Kovaleski, who now works for the New York Times. As you can see right there, he suffers from a chronic condition that impairs movement of his arms. A Times spokesman says they find it outrageous that Trump would ridicule the man's appearance.
Fake news.
Well, we've seen the pictures, Jazz.
Oh, fake news.
So the pictures are fake.
Fake news.
How do you feel about mocking the families of Gold Star families?
Gold Star families. Again, fake news.
Okay, but you've seen it on your screen, Jazz.
I've seen it, mate.
How do you know that the Donald Trump balloon isn't fake news? Why have you chosen to believe this?
You're going nuts about it, and you know why?
Mate, I think it's funny. I'm not going nuts about it. I'm giggling.
But are you going to turn up?
To what?
Are you going to turn up to this?
I might do, I might not. I don't need to, do I? I'll be able to see it from the office window. But let's just focus on why you... Have you phoned me before? This is the first time you ever phoned me was about a giant balloon. I just want to know why.
Because it's pathetic, James.
Well, you keep saying it's pathetic, but it's also funny. I mean, lots of things are pathetic.
I really cannot understand why you just keep attacking Donald Trump.
You can't.
I mean, James...
Well, we know why you can't understand, Jazz, because you describe all the facts behind reasons to attack Donald Trump as fake news, so you can understand why. Come on, Jazz, no one's that stupid. If you describe the evidence of your own eyes as fake news, then you can understand why people keep attacking him. It's not difficult to grasp, but if you describe facts as lies, then you've chosen not to understand why. I can't really help you any more than that. I'm interested in your attitude to the balloon.
Real facts. Give me some real facts.
I just have. He mocks disabled journalists. He boasts about sexually assaulting women. He's a multiple bankrupt. He mocked the families of a Gold Star general.
Fake news.
Fake news. But the balloon is real.
Let's try some real
But the
news,
balloon is real.
What do you say about the 21st executive order?
I have.
Human sex trafficking.
Balloon makes me cross. I hate balloons.
It doesn't make me cross.
I'm going to take my drone. I'm going to take my drone there and shoot it down. Ooh, jazzy baby.
For you.
Yeah, well, I'm very glad you feel sad for me.
I feel real sad for you. You're such a good, intelligent man.
With your drone and your fake news. With your drone and your fake news. What sort of drone have you got? What sort of drone have you got? What sort of drone have you got, Jazz?
Don't worry about my drone, mate.
I want to know. I want to make sure it's big enough to burst the great big horrible balloon. So what sort of drone have you got?
Mine's got lasers.
Yeah.
Whatever it's got.
Okay, really well, I'll look out for you. I'll look out for you on the day as you make a great assault upon freedom with your toy helicopter. Paul is in Braintree. Paul, how cross are you?
I'm a bit annoyed, actually, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I've got a letter from the council because of a George flag.
Yes, but it's there.
Take it down.
Well, that's awful. But is it their property that you live in?
No, it's not. It's my own property.
Well, then they can't tell you that you have to take a flag down.
No, they recommended that I take it down because it would be classified as a racist thing.
Then ignore them. Can you send me the letter? Have you got it there? Can you read it to me?
I'm literally on the M25, mate. I did tell your lady that. I'm literally on the M25.
So you got a letter off the council recommending that you take down your St George's flag, but they have no power to do so because you don't live in a council property.
Yeah, their exact words were along the line of, it may be taken as a negative... I can't remember the exact word, but...
No, but you do. You said their exact words were along the lines of, so I knew they weren't going to be exact.
It could be taken down. It could be taken in a negative fashion.
Right. But it's your house.
Yes, I appreciate that.
And did you take it down?
No, I haven't took it down.
But you're cross about the balloon?
Yeah, I am.
All right, mate. Have a lovely weekend, Paul.
Oh, so you're not going to let me have an opinion? That's not...
I've just heard your opinion, and now I'm laughing at it.
No.
That's what freedom of speech is all about. You've got an opinion, I'm laughing at it. And well done for keeping your flag up. I look forward to you emailing me that letter. Paul's in Manchester. Paul, how upset are you?
James, listen.
I am.
It's the reason why they're allowed to do this is because of the democratic right to free speech. So they're allowed to do this because of the democratic right to free speech. For 2 years, they've been destroying the democratic right of 17.4 million people, including MPs.
Who has?
Right? So
who has?
Well, everybody, all the snowflakes that have been saying we want this, we want that, we want.
So they don't have a democratic right to free speech. The snowflakes.
Well, where's the democratic? How can the democratic right only come from one side?
Well, it doesn't. You just described two sides.
We're being told that we're racist.
Yeah.
And that we didn't know what we was doing.
Well, that's free speech. That's free speech.
Not free speech.
But it is, isn't it?
Because so 17.4 million people didn't have the right to say what they wanted.
Of course they did, and they said it.
Say what they wanted, and when they did say what they wanted to happen,
we're talking about balloons. We're talking about balloons.
Yeah. Well, the second point on that.
Oh yeah, good.
I've only got 2 points.
Well, I don't know that we've actually hit one yet, Paul. To be honest with you.
The second point.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you've been watching EastEnders, but they've been portraying on screen about the death of a young boy that's been stabbed.
Right.
And how that reacts on the family. Instead of Lord Mayor Khan and his office and the police turning around and saying, "Oh yeah, that's a great thing to do," why don't they get off the bums and stop knife crime and save people's lives?
How would that? I mean, no one's going to argue about the importance of tackling knife crime, but how would not flying the balloon, do you think, reduce knife crime?
Well, they're making light when they've got more important things to be doing.
Well, it's literally a signature. It's literally a signature on a piece of paper. I'm intrigued as to how not having a balloon of Donald Trump flying would reduce knife. How would it reduce knife crime?
Well, 10,000 people signed this petition. 17.4 million people signed a referendum.
Yes, but you're not. You don't think you should be allowed to criticise the 10,000 people who signed the petition because you don't think other people should be allowed to criticise the 17.4 million who voted to leave the European Union. You can't have it both ways, Paul. Anyway, you said you had 2 points. You said you had 2 points. You said you had 2 points. Let's hear the first one.
Well, the first one is we have a democratic society, therefore people's views should be allowed on both sides.
You're exactly right. So fly the balloon. So fly the balloon.
17.4 million people said they wanted to leave the EU. Right.
Some of them wanted to be like Norway. Some of them wanted to be like Switzerland. Some of them wanted to keep freedom of movement. Some of them thought that we'd be able to stay in the customs union. 22% of them thought there was only a slight risk of having to leave the single market. So they didn't all vote for the same thing, Paul. Or am I denigrating your democratic freedom by pointing out that what you say isn't really true?
No, you're not, because that's your view.
So let's back. It's not my view, mate. Those are facts.
Well, okay, that's your fact.
No. Those are the facts. They're your facts as well. They're all our facts. They're the only facts.
Since then, look what's happening now. We're not going to be leaving the EU.
Well, I don't know that that's true, but of course, what you're really cross about, and I did hope that we would be talking about balloons this hour, but what you're really cross about is all the people.
It's absolutely disgraceful that we're putting a balloon up against Donald Trump.
But it's freedom of speech.
No, yeah, well, okay. So why didn't we have freedom of speech when the Saudis came over?
We did. There was a massive protest outside 10 Downing Street. I went down there myself.
They didn't put balloons in the sky.
Well, no one applied to. They could have done. No one applied to. So you want more balloons? I don't understand, Paul. So you think we should have had more balloons? You're cross that there's only one balloon for Donald Trump. You wanted one for the Saudi Crown Prince as well.
Well, for all of them, yeah.
So your complaint is there aren't enough. So you've ring in to say there aren't enough balloons mocking foreign leaders.
Well, if you're going to do it for one, you've got to do it for them all.
Well, then where is your crowdfunding petition, mate?
I'm not a crowdfunding petition.
Well, that's how this one happened. This is how it happened.
Yeah, so
you are literally free, as a citizen of this democratic country, you're literally free to pay for and apply to float a balloon about anyone you want in this country. So maybe you should do that.
Like Nick Ferrari's turned around and said previously, right, it's a good job we're not at war. because then people would have something really to worry about.
Which
rather
people
than
would?
Crowdfunding permissions to put balloons in
Mate, come on. You're I never speak ill of colleagues, but the idea... Well, no, and I won't speak ill of Nick, but you think we should be at war because people think a balloon is funny?
No, I think that if we was at war,
yeah,
people would have much more serious things to worry about than putting a balloon in the sky.
But you've rung in literally because you're so worried about the balloon in the sky.
Well, yeah. What's wrong with Donald Trump?
No, you've literally rung in to complain about the balloon, and then in the space of 5 minutes you've said we should be at war so that people don't get so worked up about something as silly as a balloon. You're literally describing yourself now, Paul. Yes.
If we were at war,
yes,
people would have much more to worry about.
Well, yes,
than putting a balloon in the sky.
But I'm not worried about the balloon in the sky, and we're not at war. You're worried about it. Why do you need a war? Why do you need a war to stop being worried about the balloon, Paul?
Everything's going so left-wing. Everything's going all nice and, we'll bring back flower power and all go and sit in the park and all
down with being nice to people. Why do you need a war to stop being cross about the balloon? I'm just interested.
Because then you'd have to worry about things like getting your kids to an air raid show.
No, here's the thing. Listen to me, Paul.
You've got potatoes growing in your garden so you can eat.
Yes, no, these are all... I've got potatoes growing in my allotment, and I'm not at war.
There you go.
Yeah.
But if there was one, you'd be prepared.
I'd be growing more potatoes.
What would the others do?
Well, I'd probably, depending on who we were fighting against, I'd probably try to sign up. But listen, I'm going to give you some really helpful advice, all right?
Go on.
You don't need to go to war to stop being cross about the balloon, Paul. What you do now is you just say, Paul, stop being cross about the balloon. Let's try it.
No, what we need...
No, stop it. This is my good deed for the day, Paul.
Bows and arrows to go up and pop the balloon.
Paul, well, no, because that would be silly, and that wouldn't. But because you're trying to not be angry about the balloon, Paul. So going down there and getting arrested for having an offensive weapon in a public place would make the situation worse, not better. So I'm going to try and help you.
We've got soldiers that can do that.
We've got soldiers that can do that as well. Well, I mean, maybe they wouldn't be there if we were at war. So here's the thing: you have chosen to be angry about a balloon. You have somehow persuaded yourself that you wouldn't be angry about the balloon if only we were at war. I, because I love you, am very keen to explain to you that you don't have to be angry about the balloon with a war in the background. You could just stop being angry about the balloon, because being angry about the balloon is stupid.
It's all full of hot air, isn't it?
Well, it is, yes, Paul.
Are
you less angry now than when you? Are you less angry now than when you rang in?
You've calmed me down, James.
Paul, that is what I'm here for. All right, now.
It's still wrong.
Well, it's not really. It's a balloon.
Oh, come on.
Oh, come on.
Can we put a balloon up of Sadiq Khan?
Of course you can, Matt. We've been through this. You start the petition, you crowdfund the money, you find enough people who want to do it as well, and I will defend it. I will laugh at it.
There's a crowdfunding page already up and going for...
Go get your money in that. Well, actually, don't. Keep your money in your pocket, because you could spend it on something a bit more constructive. But spread it around. Spread the word. Spread the word.
Potatoes for the war.
Yeah, save your potatoes for the war, Paul. Mind how you go. Brendan's in Portsmouth. Brendan, what would you like to say?
Hello, James. Yes, self-confessed gammon-faced middle-aged man.
Me too, mate. But gammon is a state of mind, not a state of facial.
Not too similar to yourself.
Yes.
But where we do part company is, despite having an excellent sense of humour, I actually don't like the idea of the balloon. I can understand the hostility against it. You've just had Nick Clegg on saying that the world's becoming a bit more isolationist and, trade wars and everything else. I just can't understand how doing this sort of thing can advance sort of like the principle of friendship.
You can't make friends with Donald. You can't make friends.
No, there are lots of...
I'm going to have to speak at some point.
That don't get it. They just see what they see on the TV. They don't understand really what's underneath the bonnet and such. Like, it feels to me very much like a personal battle now between Sadiq Khan and Donald Trump as well.
And the Met Police and the Air Traffic Control Office.
Yeah,
because the right-wing media is trying to make you see it as a personal battle. You'd need to find evidence of Sadiq Khan turning down similar-sized blimps, but clearing this one for it to be even anything remotely resembling that. But I don't want you to fall into that trap, because the police and the air... Do you think the police and the air traffic control are having a personal battle with Donald Trump as well? Mate, I'm talking to you.
Around it. I understand you are, mate. I understand that.
But you've got to slow down a little bit, because you've already said a couple of things that aren't true.
Okay, mate, all right.
So do you think the police...
If your father-in-law were to come around your house for the first time, the very first time that you'd ever met him before, do you think it would be common courtesy to put a balloon up of him in the living room, paint him orange with a giant nappy on? How do you think that relationship would develop?
Does he publicly abuse disabled people?
James, you've got to respect the office.
I'm asking you a question. No, you're talking about my father-in-law. So I'm asking you a question. Does he publicly abuse disabled
I don't
people?
believe that happened, and that was in the campaign before he became president of the United States.
So either did it not happen, or did it happen in the campaign before he became president? Because you just said both.
Campaigns, if from what you're referring to happened during the course of the campaign.
So did this man abuse disabled people?
Of America.
So did this man abuse disabled people before he became my father-in-law?
I've got no idea, but James, answer the question.
Mate, it's your analogy.
Put a balloon up. Do you think that's common courtesy?
Well, yes, if he routinely abuses disabled people and grabs women by the vagina, then yes, I would probably seek to...
How is that helping things in the climate of Brexit?
Well, because if you don't stand up to it, you encourage and
the economy, though, James.
Brendan, I know you thought you had some brilliant points, but every time I deal with one, you try and move on to another one.
What's it going to do for the economy?
What's what going to do for the economy?
Isolating the United States.
Mate, he's just launched a trade war against his closest allies.
Okay, James, all right. You don't seem to have an answer, so I'm quite happy to...
I don't have an answer to what, Brendan?
Well, you're not really answering... I mean,
I've answered all your questions. What would you do if your father-in-law came round and I said, well, well, no, you're talking over me. Do you want me to answer your questions or not, Brendan?
Go on then, go ahead.
Okay, so would I put up a balloon mocking my father-in-law if he was a serial sex pest, if he boasted about grabbing women by the vagina, if he routinely abused and mocked disabled people in public, if he took the mickey out of the families of a dead American or indeed British soldier, if he endorsed a policy and introduced a policy that separated babies from their children and threw them in cages in latter-day concentration camps? I don't think I would put up a balloon, Brendan, because I wouldn't let him into my house, even if however much I loved his daughter, and I'm fairly confident that I couldn't have fallen in love with a woman who was comfortable with that kind of behaviour, even if it was
Trump is guilty of all those things.
Yes, I've seen it all. I've heard the tape of him boasting about being a sex offender. I've seen him mocking disabled people on television, and I've read the order that Jeff Sessions introduced on April the 6th, 2018. And do you know what the really interesting thing is, Brendan?
Go on.
You could see it all as well if you opened your eyes.
Oh, I can see quite a lot, James. I can see that you've been quite along about a lot of things politically in the past, such as your original support for Boris Johnson, which you later reneged on and assassinated his character.
Do you know why? Because I can admit when I'm wrong. That's something else. That's something else you can learn from.
Because you didn't research it properly, despite the fact that you're sitting on a national platform.
What do you mean I didn't research it properly? I researched everything properly. I didn't know as much about it then as I did now, because I didn't think the country would be stupid enough to go down this road. So to be clear, your argument is, when you rang in, you thought, I'll ask him if he'd put up a balloon of his father-in-law in his living room on his first visit, and I've pointed out to you that would not be anywhere near enough a strong enough opposition to the behaviour that we know Donald Trump has undertaken, and now you're talking to me about Boris Johnson.
So why do you support Sadiq Khan? Why do you support Brendan Cox? These people have done things equally as wrong, but you have them in your studio, don't you?
I have condemned Brendan Cox for his allegations of sexual assault. I dedicated an entire hour of the programme to it. What are you accusing Sadiq Khan of doing?
After knife crimes off the scale in London, James.
It's off the scale in every city in the country. I condemn Brendan. What exactly has Sadiq Khan done that you're accusing him of?
Well, I think the Mayor of London isn't doing a very good job of reducing knife crime.
So do I.
I think it's higher than it's ever been before.
So do I.
It's pretty poor.
So do I. But what are you accusing him of?
Of doing a pretty poor job, James. That's what I just said.
Well, I agree with you. The knife crime is out of control. Something needs to be done. We can argue about who's ultimately responsible, but it's happening on the Mayor's watch. But you rang in about a balloon, Brendan. It's almost as if you've realised your balloon has burst and now you're desperately scrabbling around for anything that might make you sound vaguely credible.
No, I think the balloon is the opposite. I think it stuck. Yeah?
What?
The opposite of blow.
It stuck.
I think it actually stuck. It's a bad idea. We shouldn't go ahead with it. I'm pretty sure that somebody will deflate it on the day anyway, even if it does go ahead.
Well, I think we all know what that will sound. I think we all know what that will sound like, Brendan. The sound of deflation.
Very good, James.
On your jog. Ray's in Billericay. Why does the balloon upset you, Ray?
Because it's disrespectful.
To whom?
To the country, to the Queen. I don't mind people being mocked in spitting image, in cartoons and things like that. That's fine. But you've got a leader of the biggest country in the world that saved us in 2 world wars, and you're mocking the man.
Yes, mocking the man, not the country. Donald Trump. No, Ray. Donald Trump dodged the draft.
People, if you don't agree with them, you cut them off, as you did about 10 minutes ago, and this is what I'm going to do with you.
Go on then, Ray. Oh no, Ray! Oh no! Oh, what am I going to do with this slice of pineapple now? 0345 6060 973 is a number to call. If you haven't got an argument, don't ring in. If you think you've got an argument, especially if you're certain you've got an argument, especially if it involves a father-in-law or something, ring in and we'll have some fun together. Stuart's in Burnley. Stuart, what's going on?
Can you just give me a sec?
Oh, what are you up to, mate?
I'm just pulling up.
Oh.
Sorry, I set off because you kept me waiting.
That's all right. No, well, sorry, the phone lines have gone nuts. Why are you cross about the balloon?
No, I never said I was cross, to be honest. No, I just find it hilarious, to be honest, really.
Oh. Well, you're no fun. So do I.
Well, no, hang on.
Oh,
First
carry
of all,
on. Yeah.
me and you were polar opposites, yeah? I voted Leave. I'm a Trump supporter.
What do you like about... What do you mean... When you say you're a Trump supporter, what do you mean?
I mean, I just looked at the way the election was going in America and made my decision.
Yeah, but what do you support? What is it about him you support?
Well, I support some of his policies. I don't like everything about him.
Which policies do you support?
I like the fact that he's trying to control his borders. I also like the fact that he's taking on some of the big businesses with trade, you know.
When you say he's taking on what people keep telling me is that everything he's doing at the border, apart from ripping the babies from their mothers and putting them in cages, Obama did as well.
Come on, James.
3 million people, but Barack Obama deported 3 million illegal immigrants, but nobody ever mentions that. But when you say he's taking on big business, what do you mean by that?
Well, he's standing up to people that haven't been stood up to before. I mean, the European Union... You know, have you ever heard the European Union... No, big business. Big business, Stuart. Well, you're saying the European Union is not big business?
Yeah, I am. I'm saying the European Union is the European Union. So what big businesses is he standing... What big businesses is he standing up to?
The European Union is a massive business.
Well, it's not, is it? It's a political union. It's a single market. Big business. You're standing up to big business.
Hang on a minute.
I am. I'm hanging on. I'll hang on as long as you want, Stuart.
But you've been... Hang on, well, if you let me speak, you've been promoting that the European Union is the dog's dangly bits for ages, so now you...
No, I haven't. I haven't, though, Stuart. I think the European Union is deeply flawed, but it's a hell of a lot better than closing your eyes and running into the nearest wall.
Yeah, but, it's an example. He's taking them on.
How is he taking them on?
He's got them rattled.
No, Stuart, how is he taking them on? What's he done? What policy do you...
He's making sure that the trade that goes on is equal.
No, he's not. He's doing the opposite of that, isn't he? Because why do you think Harley Davidson has transferred production out of America?
Yeah. And Boeing are going to leave the UK.
Harley Davidson have already announced that they're moving out some production from America because of tariffs on steel coming in from China and Canada.
We've heard it all before. Everybody's going to do everything, but they don't actually do it, do they?
But they already have.
What have they done so far?
They've announced that they're removing production from America because they don't want to pay for the steel under the tariffs that Donald Trump has introduced. Stuart, mate, you're supposed to be telling me about the stuff you support, and so far all you've really done is just keep saying European Union a lot.
I actually rang up to talk about a balloon.
No, I asked you why you were cross about the balloon.
I didn't, and I said I wasn't cross about the balloon.
So what do you ring in to talk about the balloon for, then?
I actually said to your person on the line that I find it hilarious.
Yeah, you told me that already, and then you moved on to other stuff about Trump.
Yeah, but tell you why I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, go on.
Oh, by the way, when I said that we were polar opposites and I voted to leave...
No, you've done it again. You've just started talking about the balloon, and then you've gone off on a tangent, and then in 2 minutes you'll say that I didn't let you talk about the balloon. Talk about the balloon. Everyone knows we're polar opposites, Stuart. It could not be clearer.
Hang on. I want your listeners to know that I'm 2-0 up.
OK, Paul, let me tell you, Stuart is 2-0 up. For anyone who might have missed those goals because they went to make a cup of tea, Stuart is 2-0 up. Now, back to the balloon.
Right, good. Right. Now, the other thing is, the balloon.
Yes.
I find it absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, you said 4 times.
Everything that's going on with Trump, if that's the best that you've got, if that's it, a balloon, flying a balloon, it just smells of desperation from the left. Is that it? Is that what you've got, a balloon?
You think the only opposition to Donald Trump is the balloon?
Yeah. Is that what he's clinging on to, a balloon?
No, people just think it's funny, but you said that yourself.
Yeah, but the coverage of it today,
Well, the coverage on this programme has, to be fair, Stuart, and I know you're 2-0 up, so I can say this confident that I won't take the lead as a result. On this programme, the coverage has really just involved laughing at really silly people like you.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go.
Yeah, and let me just put you right on something. Locking children in cages. You keep repeating it and repeating it.
Have we got the footage of that? Actually, I think we have, haven't we?
Yeah,
No, stay there, Stuart. No. We've got the tapes from the actual camp, I think. Ready, Stuart, put your dummy in for a minute, mate.
The Border Patrol told us close to 200 people inside were minors unaccompanied by a parent. Another 500 were family units. That's parents and children. Many adults who crossed the border without legal permission could be charged with illegal entry and placed in jail away from their children. Nearly 2,000 children have been taken from their parents since Attorney General Jeff Sessions announced the policy, which directs Homeland Security officials to refer all cases of illegal entry into the United States for prosecution.
¿De dónde son ustedes? ¿Y tú? Guatemala. No llores. Vas a llegar con... Mira, ella te va a explicar y te va a ayudar. ¿Cierto, Consul?
¿Qué va a pasar con su consulado hoy?
Papá.
Papá. Yo sé.
Con mi tía por lo menos para que después llegue mi mami.
¿Me puedes abrir ahí me cerró la puerta esa?
Que me venga a traer mi tía para llevarme.
Ella llama a tu tía si tú tienes número y habla con tu tía.
Tengo el número de...
Ah, pues ahorita ella te ayuda para que hable. Cálmate nada más.
No, papá.
Voy por aquí, niña.
Papá.
Cuando saquen la comida, ¿verdad?
Ay, no, papá. Para que me venga.
Ya voy a llegar yo cuando esté allá. Ya le voy a meter a comer.
Papá.
Si tiene una celda, me la da, por favor.
Ay, no, papá.
Si se quiere juntar con ella, se junta aquí, porque voy a tener
Ay, no, papá.
O me la pone allá mejor. Allá en la orillita.
No, papá.
No, va a tener que ser aquí, porque voy a meter Jimmy y se va a ir
No, papá.
Go on, Stuart, say something else stupid.
That sounds like the Remainers.
There we go, well done. Paul's in Enfield. Paul, what would you like to say?
Back of the net. Hi, James.
Thank you very much. 5-0 down. I'm feeling bad, man. You got any half-time oranges?
That was bad for you, actually, on that last bit.
Carry on.
The balloon thing, I think for a head of state, it's outrageous. Just on that basis, I find Trump bizarre. I'm not a big supporter, but I find it awful that was the choice they had, Clinton and him. But no, I think to fly that balloon is awful. And
well, why is it awful? It's funny. What is it? I mean,
if Sadiq Khan hadn't just had Hezbollah march, and if we hadn't just had the Saudis, those well-known...
But they were protested as well. And you could, if you'd wanted to. Did you try and get a balloon up for the Saudi visit or for the Hezbollah? I'm not across the Hezbollah march. I probably should be. But did you try and get a balloon up for that?
No, because I wouldn't have a chance.
Well, how do you know if you never tried?
Well, I haven't got a balloon anyway.
Did you go to the Saudi? Well, they didn't have a balloon. They crowdfunded. Did you try crowdfunding?
No.
Did you start a petition?
No.
Did you go down to the protest at Downing Street when the Saudi Crown Prince was here?
No.
What exactly did you think your point was when you rang in?
My point is, Sadiq Khan has very flexible...
So what balloons has he turned down then that prove he's somehow been flexible on this one?
How can you have Hezbollah march on the street?
Yeah, we've asked about that. What balloons has he turned down? Because he gave permission to that march, you're telling me, and he gave permission to the balloon. So the argument is actually the same. He's given permission to both of them. So where's the hypocrisy? Tell me about the balloons.
Kind of a bit general.
Tell me about the balloons that he has said we can't fly in London, because I'm not aware of any, and you clearly must be.
No, I'm not. I think this is the first balloon example coming up. But,
well, then how can it be evidence of hypocrisy or flexibility?
It is a hypocrite.
Well, I know you keep saying that, but I'm asking you to prove it.
Hezbollah march.
Yeah, but but he gave permission to that as well. So that's two examples of him giving permission to stuff. In order to prove hypocrisy, you have to provide an example of him refusing permission for something.
Okay, I'll ask him for permission to do a right-wing march or something. I'm not right-wing, by the way.
Why would you want to go on a right-wing march if you're not right-wing, Paul? Is the kettle on, Paul?
Yeah, all right.
All right. Go and make a cup of tea, mate. Victoria's in Hornchurch. Victoria, the balloon. Talk to me.
I was just saying to your producer, I find it really childish.
Yeah, I do as well, but I quite like childish humour sometimes.
I just think it's something my kids would do in the playground.
Yeah, I know, and that can sometimes make grown-ups laugh as well.
To me, I'm
Come
not
on, your children make you laugh sometimes. Your children make you laugh sometimes, don't they?
They do, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. So we both like childish humour. So why don't you like the balloon?
It's not something I personally would do because I think I'm an adult.
No one's asking you to. I'm asking why you don't like it. You've got a problem with the people that do want to do it.
I haven't got a problem with the people that want to do it.
Well, why have you rung me
If they
then?
want to do it, let them do it. Just because I find the whole thing funny, and I think...
Well, that's the whole point. It's supposed to be funny.
I don't know. I think people are getting too worked up for something that they shouldn't be.
But nobody's getting worked up on the side of people who think it's funny. The only people getting worked up are the people who don't think that it should be allowed to happen. And you sounded a bit like one of them when you dismissed it as childish before realising that you often laugh at childish things.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. But the other thing I was going to say is, there's an old saying, keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Yes.
Should we not be looking at something like that with Trump?
Well, it depends whether or not you want to be friends with a self-confessed sex pest who routinely boasts about grabbing women by the vagina and tears babies away from their children before locking them in cages. I would say that you can judge a person by the company they keep. That would be the proverb I'd bring to the table. Why would you want to be friends with someone like that?
Because you can hurt friends that are close to you more than you can harm friends that are closer to you more than you can harm enemies that you know nothing about.
But isn't that what the balloon does then? Aren't we mocking someone that you think we should be friends with? You're kind of endorsing your own idea when ringing up to do the opposite.
I don't know.
I know you don't.
I don't know.
Yeah. Down with balloons, though, eh? Down with balloons.
I know he's a moron.